By the way, I don't know if any of you guys actually had to order this book online, but the book online, I couldn't find it any cheaper than like $60 because I ordered it late in the semester. So I called
This tiny thing?
Yeah. And so I was so mad, and I finally just called my sister-in-law, and I was like, Whitney, can you just send me this stupid book? Like, I was so mad. And so I just realized now, as I'm, like, done, she sent me, like, a cute little note. I'll have to text her and say thanks.
That's funny. Okay, so I started the broadcast. So
All right.
So I'm Heather Farnsworth.
I'm Fallon.
I'm Riley Ferens.
I'm Susan Lufau.
I'm Beth Hansen.
And this is the Brady Bunch.
Questions. So the first one is, having completed the book, how has your understanding and perception increased on the process of international policy and law?
Can I start?
Sure. Go ahead.
So there was, when I was reading the book, I don't know if you guys have access to it right now, but like in page 59, it says that international law addresses the relationship between nations and people. And the family is what deals with relationships between humans at the most basic level. So with the whole book talks about the international law and stuff like that, but that narrowed it down to me in a way to understand that it is a relationship between the nations and the people. So I thought it was pretty cool. And the book, I had read it before once I got it. I thought it was part of it, and so I read it since it was so little. But I had to reread it. I was like,
you overachiever, you.
Yeah, right. That was what I was thinking. I was ahead, but yet I was in trouble. Because when the time came, I did not remember anything. But yeah, so I like that part where it says that it is between nations and people. It's that relationship. So.
Can I play off of Fallon, because I actually underlined that in the next part in the book where it says the family was more. It says where I realized that it says the family was more than just something to preserve. It's the only place where the problems of society could be successfully addressed. And for me, that really hit me, because I was like, that's so true. Like, if we cannot function on a fundamental level within ourselves, within our family.
Look at that.
Yeah!
It's all highlighted.
Mine's with pencil because my son ate my highlighter, but anyway, so that was, it was just like, I like that you played off that, because I thought that was so important, and I think that, like, overall, that it just, like, it made me realize, like, how fundamental, you hear it in the church all the time, the family's the fundamental unit, but, like, really, for society as a whole, like, the family is the only place that we can succeed, and if we can succeed in the family, then we can succeed in the world. But that's why we're having such a problem, is because we're not succeeding in the family.
So true.
So can I be the Debbie Downer now?
Sure.
I learned how much international law affects policy on the United States level, but with a caveat, I learned how forceful and influential the radical feminists are in U.S. legislation. And
how scary was that?
Oh, I was freaking out. And the fact that they give them so much power, they take tantrums. I was so upset about that, just how unfair it is to the other NGOs. It just kind of made me mad. It made me really mad.
I know, I was just remembering that 3 hours when they're, throwing that tantrum, and then he's like, okay, that's enough.
I thought about, I couldn't help but think about Joseph Smith in Liberty Jail when he stood up and, quiet.
I was just thinking about when my 1-year-old throws a fit, and I'm like, okay, fine, have some fruit snacks, okay? Like, fine, it's our 4th pack a day. But, that's what I really thought of, and I was really saddened by that, too, because I feel like because they did throw a fit, it was like, fine, here you go, just do whatever you want. That part it surprised me a lot. So.
Yeah.
And the sad part of it is that you know how there's some parts where they were saying, "Oh, we just pretty much sign it because we're like tired of being here. We want to go home."
Yeah.
Right.
And then, but then at the same time, the power that it has in the nations, and because it is coming from, you know, such a recognized international organization, people say, "Oh, it's." They say it's good, then it must be
Then
good.
it's good.
Let's make it a law in our country.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that, I don't know, just kind of the same thing. Like, I didn't realize how people's own agendas that were there could influence the whole world just because they were there and pushing for things. And that is kind of scary because the family needs to be more represented.
Was anyone else super upset when the lady, I think she was from Pakistan or some like Muslim country, where she got kicked out because it didn't agree with what the feminists wanted? I was mad.
Did they disqualify her?
Yeah, I almost threw my book. I literally was like, no! Like,
I just got more fruit snacks.
Yeah, but it was like, it kind of felt like when you're powerless. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that you could do. But then at the same time, yeah,
It reminded me of Satan doing everything that he could to
Yeah.
try to stop this from happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
I
part,
thought it- Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I was gonna say the other part where he was, he just couldn't write anymore. He couldn't write because those women were standing right over him and
For
intimidating
2
him.
hours, yeah.
And he was just stuck, and he was like so low. It was like the lowest of the low he's ever been. It reminded me of Joseph Smith praying in the garden in the sacred grove, and just
Yeah.
being overcome, and then having to somehow come out of that the bright light that hit the thought of his wife, is what pulled him out of that, and he went to call her. That was just amazing. It's like the whole family right there. And
Interesting.
how beautiful it was, how much he emphasized his wife in all this. So
yes,
pretty.
I know, it made me cry.
I guess maybe we should move on. I read through them briefly, but I'm not sure if we're answering some of the other questions. So the next question is, what role did you see the Lord playing in Professor Wilkins' efforts to advocate for families of the world? What lessons did you learn through your own efforts?
Okay, so my favorite one was the beard. How he didn't shave his beard, and that's how he got, like, he got the speaking spot because of his beard, and he got a bunch of respect from him. They, like, thought he was from a different school because he was not.
I thought that was so funny.
That was perfect.
I thought that one was good too.
The Lord is in the beard.
I kind of thought about the question that the Arab man asked him, where have you been?
Yeah.
I started thinking, oh my goodness, where am I? Am I supposed to be somewhere right now? Am I supposed to be doing something right now? I really need to find that out.
Yeah. I really like it. I'm gonna keep on going on the pages because I highlighted a few stuff. But in '97, I like how it says, "Richard's heart was filled with love," referring to all of them. And it says, "My friends, my brethren, you heard me because I brought you the voice of the prophet of God of Abraham. You don't know that Gordon B. Hinckley is the prophet of your God, but you heard his voice, and you, my brothers, had the courage to stand up for the truth that you recognized and resonated. To a courage I found within myself only by painful effort, in spite of my good fortune to know the identity of that prophet," which I thought it was kind of cool because it's so true. When it comes to eternal truths, people will recognize that to be true. Because it's true. It's nothing that you can deny. Whether you believe it or not, it's a truth. And it makes me think the same thing, where you've been. All these things we know, and sometimes we don't stand up for them, or we don't say anything because we want to be passive or because we're just afraid of what others may say. But that's not going to change the fact that family is an eternal truth, that the importance of families is. So I thought it was it was kind of like a wake-up call. Where you been in the sense of you're not doing anything, start doing something, you know.
Okay, again, I'm piggybacking off of Fallon. Fallon is showing
Way to go,
everybody.
Beth.
So going down just to like a little bit further where it says like Richard's mind raced everyone. He loved them all because he knew now for certain that God did. And then the last sentence before the little cute star thing, it said God existed and Richard was connected to him. He knew him. And I think that was something that was so powerful for this because I mean, I think in his whole process, it really came through like he knew God. He knew who he was, and he knew that he was on God's mission. And because he was able to love and see people through God's eyes, I think that enabled him to do a lot of things differently than he would have had that not have happened. And how Fallon said, my friends, like, my brethren, like, he really impassioned these people. Like, I am the same as you. Like, this is where we are, and this is what I know, and this is what God is saying. Like, I thought there was a lot of power in that part that Fallon just read, too. So.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like there's definitely moments in this story where it seemed like if God was on their side, it would never have worked out. Just because the opposition is so powerful and had so much pressure and used intimidation. But I thought that was really cool. And that was really awesome. And just that there are people believing that can tell, that recognize the truth and are that was really cool about too for me. Even though the book is largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing in this account? Why is it important to recognize this? Well, I first think of his wife, because, I don't know, she was always my perfect wife throughout the whole story. And just how they had, like, the ward fast, or pray for him, and the faith that helped with that, I thought was significant.
Sorry, I've got to go back and read the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll read it again if you want.
Oh, that's okay. We're on number 3, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Do you mind reading it just so?
Okay. Even though the book was largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing in this account? Why is it important to recognize this?
I thought a really important one was his wife, just because you could really tell, like, the relationship they had and how that was, like, I mean, that was, like, the basis of a lot of his faith, I felt like, came because him and his wife had a relationship that, you know, I think that, and I really like that you brought the word, like, fasting, and I think that friends was important, too, but for me, it was like, okay, it just really helped me to, like, take a step back and be like, okay, am I being this kind of a wife? Am I being the kind of a wife that could support my husband in changing the world? Or trying to, you know?
I think it gave juxtaposition to what all the feminists were arguing about, like, we need to get rid of gender, we need to get rid of families. It's oppressive to have women take the, you know, traditional role of a wife, and then you have his wife that's doing that. It's just like this, I don't know, juxtaposition of how significant she was.
Yeah. Well, and I think to me it just showed how proud she was of her role. You know, that's something that me and my sisters, we've talked a lot about. We're all pretty independent women, but, like, we love our husbands. We love being on their right hand. And, you know, like, for us, we don't see ourselves as their minority or their like, little housekeeper, you know? Like, they can come home and vacuum just as good as I can. But, like, for us, it's like, they're our best friends. And we, like, for us, it's okay because we know that we support them. We don't ever feel like they're lessers. We don't feel like, you know, sometimes it is hard to stay home when it feels like a break that they get to go to work. But, like, at the same time, like, I signed up to be a mom, and sometimes I think it'd be great to have, like, a 10-hour-a-week job at Target just to, like, go. But, like, I would never give up being a mom if I don't have to. And I know in a lot of circumstances that doesn't help. But I think for me, it just, like I said, I love being that supportive role to him because I know that's what he is to me. And, like, I've been really sick this last week and getting migraines, and Jared will come home and he'll read my homework assignments to me and type out all of my homework. And
how
that's
nice.
something that, like, yeah, it's. I made him his favorite cinnamon rolls today because I finally felt good. But, like, you know, like, I really respected that she seemed proud to support a husband and proud of a relationship that they had together, and something that she saw as they had built together, and as he saw as they had built together, not something that he built for his wife or that she built for him. It was like, it was a unity thing, and it was an equality thing. And so it always made me laugh when we were listening to these feminists going off about how you need to get rid of that and be equal. And I was like, you know, a lot of us choose to be moms because we want to be moms. Like, we choose to be at home because that's what we want. It's not because we have to. Like, no, I could go work too. I don't want to. I'd rather be thrown up on, I guess. Like, that's just
Best for
how it
the
is.
children. They
Yeah.
care about that.
So
I was thinking when I thought of that relationship with him as his wife. Every time, you know, he was so doubtful of what he was doing. He was like, "Why am I even here? You know, I shouldn't even be here. I am a lawyer. I don't do this." But yet she said, "You really need to be there." You know, so sometimes in that role, like, she was able to see, not only support but able to see the potential that he had, and you know the talents that he had that will help him to succeed in whatever he was gonna do. So I thought that was pretty neat. That if you're in tune with the spirit, sometimes you'll be able to recognize things that others may not. And in that relationship, because he trusted her, and felt, you know, that the inspiration to just do what his wife was telling him to do. So I thought it was pretty cool. That is, sometimes we just forget to see the potential that other people have. And so it's nice when somebody else remind us of what we can do.
I was also thinking about some of the other people involved, like the missionaries that were parents of somebody he knew back home, and how comforting that was to him, and how it kept him, it kind of recharged his batteries to go take the sacrament and fellowship with those people on Sunday morning, and how important that was to him. And I thought there's so many different roles that we have that are played out, that it's like this huge puzzle coming together with all these tiny little pieces. Just because one little piece is going to be the one that's actually in front of the camera speaking out doesn't mean that we don't need all these other little pieces to put this whole picture together.
Wasn't it the same also with that with the Elders Quorum president?
Yes.
That he was able to, you know, just recognize, and then he asked, "Are you guys Mormon?" And then, because of him, he actually signed him up to be one of the candidates for to create one of the speeches.
The lady who, like, pressured him into it in the first place. I love her.
I don't know. Do something.
Yes.
Like, you have to do this. Like, we need you. And I feel like she must have been prompted by the Spirit, or if he said no, she would have just stopped. But she knew that he was in need of certain part.
Sorry.
Good. All right. Okay, I guess we can move on unless there's something you wanted to add.
Were you done, Riley?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So the next question: ponder your readings from A Sacred Duty. What are some health effects and risks of ministry for eliminating family intervention in public policy?
What aren't the risks?
Right.
I guess this question, like, it really made me think about, like, how it would affect society, and it just takes me back to the first one, where it's like, I mean, this kind of ties into the last one too, where, like, if we don't do anything, like, the risk is so great. I mean, that's a total degeneration of society. That's a loss of moral standard. That's a loss of, I feel like, everything. I mean, if we can't maintain a family unit, then what unit can we maintain at all? And I think that's why it's so important for us to fight. And I have a lot of respect for this professor, because, I mean, like, I'm not one of those people who could go stand in front of a court at the United Nations and just be like, so this is what's up, y'all. Like, I just have a lot of respect for that because, I mean, that's one person who's willing to go all the way to fight for the family. And I feel like for me, I can fight better on a personal level. I can fight better with my family. And so I don't know, like I said, what aren't the risks and consequences? It's just a total degeneration of society is what I would see as a result.
So we're getting close on time. Should we just go to the next question? Because I think that was
sure.
pretty good.
Okay, so based on a sacred duty, what do you think we can do about it? Does the author implicitly or explicitly make realistic suggestions for ordinary citizens, as well as those in a position of power and influence? Provide examples. I think I don't know. It seemed like, this guy he had built, education, and he had money and stuff, which was a huge blessing and made it so he could do that. But those of us that aren't like law people, I think we still have to give our voice and be part of organizations and pay attention to the website and votes.
But I just think we just have to be more involved. Especially, I mean, I don't have any kids, but eventually I will, and I don't want anybody else to make the important decisions for my children or impose those on them when they have other beliefs. So then, I don't know, if we don't say anything, the worst thing that we can do is just not say anything, because we're letting others govern our lives. So I just think that we definitely have to be more, just get more education, be more inspired by the Spirit, because those things will help us to make decisions and, have a better future for our families.
And I think something else, like I said, for me, it's kind of a personal level. There's one part, it's like right at the end, it's on page 104, where it says, "The price of liberty, it seems, really is eternal vigilance." And that really hit me because I was thinking about all of my friends growing up who they didn't have good family lives. They didn't know what it was like to be a part of a family where you loved and you cared for people. And so when they came over to my house and my mom would make them sit down for dinner and they would have to say, where my mom really brought them into our family, they would always leave saying, "Beth, I hope someday I can have a family like yours." And I was really lucky. I had a good family. And so I think that for me, that's something I hope I can do is my eternal vigilance can be in my home and providing an opportunity for other people to see how good a family can make life be. Because I don't know if I'll ever really, I do want to be an advocate and I want to go out and I want to be there and active in my society. But like I said, I don't think I'll really have the means to go out to the UN. But I think that for me, I've just really realized as I've been thinking about it this week, I need to focus on my family and those that I come into contact with and making them comfortable, because if I can build up people's idea of a family, then it raises their bar of what a family can be and should be. And I feel like then they'll achieve more than what they have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I also think that we need to be really.
Beth, could you mute your microphone?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that we need to be really in tune with the Spirit because, I mean, he had his life planned out. He was planning his. They were building their dream house. They had their future all set ahead of them, and how many people would just go on and do that and shove aside some, person asking them to go to Istanbul with them. I think that once we make that decision, like he said in the book, once you choose to follow the Lord and do whatever you're asked, then all the other little choices just follow. And pretty soon his dream house was just not even important to him anymore. And that's the kind of focus that we need to have, whatever it takes, whether it's being home and taking care of our family, or whether it's packing our bags and going somewhere, whether it's supporting somebody else by helping them write a paper, or whatever our little piece of the puzzle is. We need to be ready for that, and we need to be listening and willing to just jump up and go when the Spirit says go.
Thank you.
So true.
I guess does anyone have anything you want to add, or should we go to the summary now?
Let's just do the summary, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question was, having completed the book, how has your understanding and perception increased on the process of international policy and law? And Fallon talked about how international law is the relationship between the nations and the people from page 59. And Beth also quoted, but she was talking about how if we can't function with the fundamental understanding of the family, it's just so important. That's what she said. It just made me realize how fundamental the family is for society as a whole. If we can't succeed in the family, then if we can succeed in the family, we can succeed in the world. And then I brought up the point that so much is just affected from the UN, and there's so much control that the feminists have over the policies and over the whole thing. And Susan talked about how she couldn't help but think of Joseph Smith in Liberty Jail. And then later she also mentioned how his wife was kind of like his pillar of light for Joseph Smith, because when the feminists were talking, it was kind of like the darkness in the grove. And then what role did you see the Lord playing? We talked about how the Lord was in the beard. And then we also talked about, Susan said, where have you been? That question hurt me too, but I really thought that was interesting that you picked up on that. Just where have you been, and now where are we, and where should we be? And then they talked about how at the mosque, when his heart was filled with love, Fallon mentioned, it was on page 89, she said that when it comes to eternal truth, people will recognize them to be true. It makes me think of where have you been, just like Susan. And family is an eternal truth, and so people will recognize that. And Heather was mentioning how just the opposition against him was so powerful. And Beth was saying that, talking about how when he was at the mosque, he realized that he loved them so much, and he loved people, and he kind of changed that. Instead of attacking, he would be more loving towards people. And then, even though the book was largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing? Most of it we just found was his wife. His wife was just the biggest part because she supported him through everything. Anytime he had a moment of weakness, he would call his wife, and she just supported him. And Beth talked about how our role as wives, even though the feminists may see them as like it's jail to be in the kitchen or it's jail to be home raising the children, it's really not. It's a beautiful thing to be an equal partner with your husband. And we love our jobs, or we wouldn't do it. We love being moms. And then Susan talked about the missionaries that just kind of gave him the strength that he needed because they were friends of someone he knew back home. And the Elders Quorum president, Fallon mentioned, from Kenya, who invited him to speak because he knew that they were Mormon. And it was just so many people. And the lady, I think it was Susan was her name, that pushed him to go and didn't say no when he said no. She just kept asking and asking. And then ponder your readings from a sacred duty. What are some consequences and risks of eliminating family? And Beth said, what aren't the risks? And that kind of summed up our conversation. What aren't the risks? And then the last question, what do you think we can do about it? Does the author implicitly or explicitly make realistic suggestions for ordinary citizens as well as those in a position of power and influence? And Heather was just saying how he had an education and he had money, and it made it so he could do these things, but we don't have that kind of luxury. But we could be part of organizations that help. And Fallon said we just need to be more involved in whatever we're doing. And Beth mentioned at the end of page 104, the price of liberty really is eternal vigilance. So whatever we're doing, even if it's just being the best mom and best example of a family that we can be, we need to be vigilant at it. And then we need to be in tune with the Spirit, is what Susan said. We just have to be able to hear the promptings when they come. And that's what we talked about.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Cool.
Okay. You want to close the meeting and then we'll pick for next week?
Yeah. All right. I'll go ahead and stop it.